Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second session of Construction Management Bootcamp. So in today's session, we will be talking about infrastructure in detail. So in today's session, we'll be covering what are the government projects and what are the visions that the government has been having, who are the private players that is there in infrastructure, and also followed by the public-private partnership, that is the PPP. So now moving forward, firstly dealing with the government projects and the vision. So there are multiple plans that has been made from the government side. There are multiple series of infrastructure projects that has been streamlined. As I was mentioning in the previous session regarding the national infrastructure pipeline, where there is a lot of scope with respect to the futuristic projects that is coming into the picture. So here, what exactly is happening is there are a couple of growth drivers that is actually upholding the Indian infrastructure. So here we have firstly the government initiatives. So all the projects that has been coming under the government part. So you see, for example, there are many initiatives that is taken from the government. So we have the bullet train projects. There are a lot of metro rail projects that has been coming up even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. So apart from these things, there is going to be a monorail project that will be coming up. So these are the various initiatives that is taken from the government, and this is going to be one of the major growth drivers for Indian infrastructure. Then we have the infrastructure need. India by itself is a developing nation, right? So next, moving forward for the infrastructure need. So India is a developing nation by itself. So here there is, firstly, we have points of the population is one of the major factors. So keeping the population as one of the aspects over here, there is urbanization, or there is immigration that has been happening from one place to another. So when the demand or when the supply at one particular region is going to be high, definitely the standard of living, the facilities that is to be provided there, all of these things comes into the picture. So that is where the infrastructure is of much demand, where the population is slightly higher, especially in these metropolitan cities. That's where the infrastructure need that has been there in India, and that is one of the growth drivers for the Indian infrastructure. Next, moving forward, we have for housing development. So in this housing development, basically what happens, like I mentioned previously, about the urbanization or the smart city projects that has been coming up over here. So in this smart city projects, what happened, the major facilities that has been there. So the water supply, the electricity, the gas pipeline, and the drainage and the wastewater or the waste management systems, all of these things will be coming into the picture. That is where the smart city will be happening. Apart from that, when urbanization is happening, people are literally immigrating from tier 2, tier 3, or from small towns or from villages towards the metropolitan cities. So when a metropolitan city is basically expanding, so there what exactly happens, the facilities, the amenities that should be provided, that should fulfill all the needs of the every single person who has been there in the metropolitan cities. So in order to fulfill all of those needs, definitely housing development will be coming into the picture, and that will be playing as one of the major growth drivers in Indian infrastructure. Then we have international investment. So I won't stress on a lot in this particular point, because in the previous session we have spoken about foreign direct investments. So international investments has definitely been happening in India, and they are majority they are actually being investing in most of the infrastructure projects only. So here what happens, we have investors from Singapore, from Mauritius, from USA. All of these big nations are actually directly investing in Indian infrastructure. And then we have the public-private partnership, that is the PPP model. Public-private partnership, what exactly happens is, There is a government body, and then we have the private body. So they collaborate with each other so that there is another huge infrastructure project where it will be serving thousands of public. That is where this particular model will be coming into the picture. So we have a separate section with PPP. So there I will be giving you complete details regarding the public-private partnership. Next, moving forward, we have what are the various opportunities that has been there in infrastructure. So majority of the points that has been mentioned here, it is like very similar to the ones mentioned previously. Here, what happens is we have the urban Indian real estate. So I mentioned about the infrastructure need as well as the housing development. So these two will be definitely contributing for the Indian urban real estate. So as the metropolitan cities are expanding, the facilities and the amenities that should be provided in order to fulfill the need of this particular population will be driving a huge scope for the infrastructure. Then the government initiatives, like I already mentioned, there are a tremendous amount of projects with respect to railways, airways, and number of airports that has been coming over here, and the local transportation systems. Apart from that, the bullet train projects and upgraded ports that has been coming up. Those are the various government initiatives that has been taken, and infrastructure has a lot of opportunities in government initiatives. More than these, there is the National Infrastructure Pipeline, that is the NIP. So NIP, as I mentioned, it is a series of infrastructure project basically that will be helping out for the development of the Indian infrastructure. Now coming to the infrastructure growth scheme. Here what happens, I'll just tell you. These are the figures where the government has actually planned for the whole infrastructure growth that is to be happening. So there is about 100 smart cities that has been planned for the upcoming years. Apart from that, there is industrial corridor. So this includes the cold storage or the warehouses, and coming to the supply chain distribution segments, and also the factories, manufacturing units. All of these will be coming under the industrial corridors, and that stays with the number 11. Apart from that, we have the railway stations and planned lines, that is the railway lines. So they have about 600 that has been coming up in the future. Apart from that, there is 6 mega ports that has been planned. So currently, majoritarily, there is the currently operating ports that is happening at Mumbai, Chennai, in Mangalore, and also towards the this one West Bengal side. They are the major ports that is happening. Apart from these, there are 6 other major mega ports that has been planned up. And then moving forward, there is 31.9. So that is close to 32 million square feet that is planned only for commercial spaces. So commercial space demand is actually being increasing, especially when this COVID is actually hit, when this COVID, the pandemic has happened. There is a lot of work from home nature that has been started, and people are literally making use of the house spaces as work, or they are actually hiring, or they are going for the commercial workspaces. They're just taking a rent. They're just renting out one small space, commercial spaces, something like the WeWork or the Beehive, and all of those things that has been coming across. There, people are renting spaces, and that is where they're choosing to work. Not only them. So there are a lot of startups that has been coming up. So for startups, they're not really getting so much fund where they can actually rent out a whole place. That is where these commercial spaces are coming into the picture, and that is why close to 32 million square feet that has been planned due to the increased rate of the commercial space in India. So these are the whole set of plan that has been there for the infrastructure growth scheme. Now, moving forward, we have for the NIP infrastructure budget. So NIP is nothing but, again, the National Infrastructure Project. They have an investment budget of about 1.4 trillion US dollars. Can you imagine this particular figure? So this is how hugely the government is actually investing in Indian infrastructure. And here are quite amount of percentages on which particular sectors of infrastructure is where this particular investment funding is been divided. So about 24% of 1.4 trillion US dollars is actually invested in the renewable energy. Then moving forward, for most of the roadways and highways, so the national highways, state highways, or the connecting district highways, the local roads that has been there, all of these projects will be contributing for about 19% of the investment budget. And then we have about 16% that is there for urban infrastructure. So 16% of this budget is shared for urban infrastructure, where I mentioned about the metro lines that has been coming up, the commercial spaces, the malls that has been there, and also the public transport facilities. So all of these things will be coming under the urban infrastructure. And then 13% of its share is definitely taken by the railways. So for this railways, it will be covering the railway platforms, the railway lanes, the maintenance of these particular railways. So the operation and maintenance, all of this particular complete picture will be coming under the sector of railways.